So now let's transition to our final for this 2023, at least offseason. New York Giants 7-round mock draft, the 3.0, and the final one before
It's very sad.
I know it's a very sad time, but I think we have. Do we have any repeats in here? Yes, we got a couple. We got a couple repeats, and we got some new guys, especially at pick 25. We tried to mix it up with every pick 25 leading into the draft, just at least we could say we got one of them if it happens. But again, there's so many options at that pick 25. Hopefully, one of the three is right. We'll have to wait and see. And we also have a trade in this mock draft. So the 7-round mock draft 3.0, the final one with a twist and a trade that we'll get to later on. But first off, let's just start out with what we got here. Pick 25, Calijah Kancey, defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. I don't know how you like to do this. I know you like to talk about the player. I like to talk about the stats. Where do we want to start here, Alex?
I'll start with the player real quick. He's only 6'1", he's 281, so he's really, really undersized, which is why he has fallen to this spot. That is the only reason why he has fallen, but he had consistently fallen in the mock drafts that I had done. He's got great lower body strength, great athletic traits. He's, instinctive against the run as well. He's got good hands, but he's really, really undersized. We did a full breakdown of him, or a full review of him, I guess you can say, in our last episode with the interior defensive line preview. So go check that out if you want to hear more about him. But a very, very good player, a great pass rusher from the interior, definitely struggles against the run a little bit because of his size, but just a real presence despite his size.
And now moving into his stats. This past season in 2022 had a total of 31 tackles, 18 of them solo tackles, 13 of them assisted, and then 7 sacks. Repeated those 7 sacks 2 seasons in a row, and back in 2021 and here again in this past season. Also had a forced fumble last year in 2021, but definitely increased his snap count, but had a good amount of snaps the past 2 years. So definitely keep that in mind. That's 2 full years of experience with a good team like Pitt. Definitely something to keep in mind there. Do we want to flip and then you do the second pick, Alex?
Yeah, we'll flip, I guess, here. Going to pick 57 in round 2, we've got cornerback DJ Turner out of Michigan, a guy who had an insane combine, ran a 4.26 40, 5'11", 178, a little bit undersized there, but really what he is known for is his speed, his athleticism, and he is really, really solid in press coverage. He's very good at covering those fast receivers. And he is, despite his small size, he can definitely, fight with the big receivers as well. Your more physical receivers, which he did have to face at Michigan. And he had great change of direction as well. Only cons with him, definitely struggles a little bit in zone coverage, and does struggle a little bit with his footwork as well. But DJ Turner, a guy who's kind of been mocked all over the place, whether it's first or second round, he falls to us here in round 2. Really like this pick for us. We had Stevenson in the last mock draft, and I think we get a nice upgrade here with DJ Turner.
Yeah, Turner played for Michigan, started at least for Michigan in the past 2 seasons. In the 2021 season, had 33 tackles, 26 of them solo tackles, also had 2 interceptions that year, and took one back for a touchdown. This past season, he had 36 tackles total and 27 solos, so 3 more total tackles than last season and 1 more solo tackle than last season. Had a fumble recovery and also an interception this year as well. We move into our 3rd round pick 103, and we address the wide receiver need.
Hold on. Pick 103 wasn't our initial pick,
Josh, was it? Forgot about the trade. I forgot about the trade.
Ring. Chicago Bears call up. They need another weapon for their quarterback, Justin Fields. They really, really want Tyler Scott, who we had in our first mock draft, I believe it was, to the Giants in the 3rd round. They are desperate for Tyler Scott. So they say, Giants, we'll send you pick 103 and pick 133 for pick 89.
And they don't have a... Sorry, go ahead.
And pick 254 in the 7th round. So a late 3rd for an early 4th, the first pick in the 4th round, and a late 4th round pick for a late 3rd and very late 7th. So that is the trade there. And they, what's their GM's name? Oh my God. Ryan Poles was calling up. Joe Schoen's like, I know I'm the better GM. This is why I'm going to fleece you in this trade. And the Giants get pick 103, and they add 2 picks to their collection in the 4th round that are much more valuable than their 3rd and 7th round picks that they had before, in my opinion, hence why I agreed to the trade.
So then is 103 a 4th round pick, right?
It's the first pick in the 4th round, yes.
So then with that first pick in the 4th round is what I was going to. The Giants addressed that needy wide receiver position, I should say. They get wide receiver Jayden Reed out of Michigan State.
This guy, he's my favorite player in this draft. I don't understand why he's not rated higher. He's got great acceleration. He's got good footwork. His hands are solid. He's a deep threat. He's got great run after catch ability. He definitely doesn't possess the elite speed. And he's probably limited in the slot just because he's a little bit undersized, but he does have outside ability as well, which we've seen at Michigan State. I think he's very similar to Jahan Dotson in the way he plays. That's just the comp that I had for him when I was reviewing his, film, I guess. And, he's projected to go in this 4th round area. But I actually had a 2nd round grade on him when I graded him. So I'm a really big fan of Jayden Reed. Haven't seen any Jayden Reed and Giants connection specifically, but I felt like it's our final mock draft, Josh. I needed to get my guy in there, and I got it with Jayden Reed.
I mean, I think the drop-off is from his drop-off in this past season compared to 2021. If you look at his stats, in 2021, his best career year, he had 59 catches for over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Then you look at this year, and it's a drop-off. It's a drop-off of 400 yards. He had 55 catches, so only 4 catches less, but only just over 600 yards receiving and half the touchdowns at 5. And also the difference in the average yards per catch. In 2021, it was over 17. This year, it was just a little bit over 11. So again, you drop off the average yards, you basically cut in half you do cut in half the amount of touchdowns, and you basically cut in half the amount of yards. That's how you're going to get a falling wide receiver, and that's what you have here in Jayden Reed. But if the Giants can snatch him up and capitalize on that with him sitting there in the 4th round, you might as well go and do it. So that's super cool for the team to do that. Another super cool pick here in the 4th round is pick number 128. The Giants address that running back position of need. That's a backup spot. Sean Tucker out of Syracuse. This guy was a very good player for the team. Played when Syracuse is actually ranked in the first 7 or 8 games of the season when they were undefeated or something. Was very helpful in that. However, I believe he did get injured towards the later half of the season, if I'm not mistaken. I think missed also the final bowl game, the Pinstripe Bowl that Syracuse played, I think, against Minnesota or something. But Tucker, a good pick here for the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, he really, he's smaller guy, right? He's only 5'9", 207. I believe, didn't he run his own pro day, Josh? Didn't he do that? He filmed himself doing his own pro day.
He filmed himself doing his own pro day because he wasn't able to go to the NFL Combine. I don't know if he wasn't invited or he wasn't able to go. It was one of the two.
I think it might have been because of the injury, so that he had to push it back. I believe it was.
So then he filmed his own thing, and all of his stats were basically tied, or if not better than the top 5 running backs. Alex thought there was a little bit of bias in that because it was his own thing. I just thought it was interesting, though. And I mean, his stats do prove something. I mean, I know it's the ACC and it's not the strongest football conference, but you look at back-to-back 1,000+ yard rushing seasons, back-to-back seasons with 10+ touchdowns running the ball, and also receiving. Has 2 touchdowns in the past 2 years, 2 in 2021 and then 2 in 2022, so 4, I guess you could say, and has over 250 yards passing or catching, I should say, receiving. But yeah, so let me go into the exact number. So in this 2021 season, so 2 years ago, 246 carries for 1,496 yards. That's about 6 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns, and then receiving had 20 catches for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns. This past year was he got looks like 30 carries less because of the injury, but 206 carries, 1,060 yards, 11 touchdowns, 36 catches for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. I want to go back and I want to see what the injury was. So let's see about that.
I want to say it was some sort of like knee injury or something like that, but well, you can check it. What I would say about him is you mentioned how he performed really well at his, own combine, I guess you can say, whatever you want to call it. He ran really well there, but his playing speed definitely isn't as fast as his numbers show. His straight line speed is definitely not anything to write home about. He's got great change of direction. He's got great agility, makes good cuts and stuff like that, but he doesn't, he's not going to burst off, and run for 80-yard touchdown. He's going to get caught at the NFL level, I think. Would be a fair assessment to make. And like I said, he's small, so he's kind of someone who needs to dodge through the tackles and isn't going to, kind of burst through tackles. But I think he could be a nice complement to Saquon Barkley, which would be, I think helpful for the Giants to get a little bit of a load off of him, this season. And who knows what the long-term future is with Saquon Barkley as well, obviously.
I can't find any info on the injury, but I think he had an injury at the end of last season.
I know he did. Season, I forget.
Tucker never missed a game. Tucker never missed a game at Syracuse, but he had 2 games with less than 11 carries last season. The lack of touches in games worried some Syracuse fan bases. At the NFL Scouting Combine, things got worse, where he didn't participate in the Combine because of a quote-unquote medical exclusion. Declined to get interviewed by anyone. And then at Syracuse's Pro Day on Monday in March, this is the end of March, Tucker sat out and posted a video of him working out instead. According to Pro Football Docs, Tucker seemed to be heading for a big slide in the NFL draft that could potentially leave him undrafted. However, he's still projected to go in the 3rd or 4th round range where we have him. With no testing on numbers, he might alienate himself from scouts. However, there could be a team that still falls in love with him, but there are a lot of questions NFL scouts need Syracuse running back Sean Tucker to answer. Yeah, so interesting.
He did fall in our draft here to late 4th, so a certainly interesting one there. And then our 3rd 4th round pick, because of the masterful trade that GM Alex made, pick 133. The Giants get their center, and Oluwatimi out of Michigan. I know it's like a Michigan fest. We got 2 Michigan players. We got 1 Michigan State player in the first 4 rounds. Oluwatimi, we talked about him in our interior offensive line preview, I believe. He's got great hand placement. He's agile. He gets to second level quickly. He does have an inconsistent kick slide, and he does hold quite a bit in his tape. He's projected to go in this 4th to 5th round area. I actually had a 2nd round grade on him. I'm a big fan of Oluwatimi, and I think this is a nice pick here for the Giants. Josh, do you have anything else to say about him?
No, I don't. It's offensive line stuff, and I can't do stats on them. It really sucks. Like I could do. I remember when we talked about the interior offensive linemen and rank them. I did like their snaps at each position, but yeah. I think Oluwatimi is primarily a center, so there's nothing really to talk about there. But we can go to pick 160, and that enters our 5th round, and it's Moro Ojomo. I think it's how you pronounce it. Ojomo.
I don't know.
He's a defensive tackle out of Texas. And Alex, if you have any stuff on him, let me know.
I mean, he's a really high motor guy.
Just run right ahead with it, because I'm going to pull up the stats right now.
He's got great hand use as well. He's not going to be like a burner off the edge, that's for sure. He's kind of who were we talking about last mock draft? Colby Wooden, right? He's kind of a similar build to him, 6'3", 292 for Ojomo senior. He's kind of a mix defensive line edge guy. You don't really know what he's going to do, but he doesn't have the speed to play off the edge. He doesn't have the strength to play in the interior. So it's going to be, hence why he's fallen to the 5th round, which is where we are at right now. But that's kind of the thing for him of why he's struggling to kind of find his fit in the NFL. I don't know what he could do possibly. I think if he gains 10, 15 pounds of muscle, I think as an interior guy that could work. I don't think he really has the potential to be an outside guy, especially since he ran, what did he run? A 5.040, 5.0440. So definitely not the most athletic guy in terms of what he can do in the edge. The 3-cone was 50 percentile to 7.45. So, nothing too flashy there in terms of athleticism that could project him as an edge rusher. Definitely more of an interior guy going forward.
Looking at his stats this past season, he had 33 total tackles, 16 of them solo, and 3 sacks. We can just keep moving along here, I guess, and go to another former friend.
First repeat of today's episode, right?
I guess when it comes to picks, yeah, it seems like it.
First repeat, Yaya Diaby, round 5, pick 172. We talked about him in the other mock draft. Josh mentioned him. He had a visit with the Giants, which is why we were kind of talking about him. He had really great production, Josh. I remember we were talking about this last time. For a guy who's projected to be in the 5th or 6th round or wherever he's going to be, he had really, really good stats. And he also is an outstanding athlete. He ran a 4.51 40. He has great raw power. He's high motor again, good body control. He's got a very quick first step. The negatives with him, he's kind of
wasn't. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, wasn't he the guy that was like where I don't know if it was him last mock draft, but there was someone. It might have been Diaby that we were like, I don't know why he fell that far. I kept on repeating, like, I really don't know why he fell that far. It's such good stats. And then someone commented, like, didn't you do the mock draft? How would you know? Wouldn't you know why he fell that far? And I was like, yeah, like we would know why he fell that far because we only picked the Giants. That's why it's a New York Giants 7-round mock draft. Like, I don't know if they think we're sitting through all 257 picks or something, like actually picking each person.
No, we do not. So, yeah.
I'm sorry to that person. I think it was Diaby, right?
Yeah, I think it was. What I would say about Diaby, doesn't have a ton of pass rushing tools besides his, athleticism. He doesn't have, many moves. And that's certainly a struggle for him. He just kind of uses his athleticism to win in college. So that's going to be something that with proper coaching can certainly be coached up. Josh, you got anything for him or you want me to move on to the next pick?
I mean, I've done his stats before, but I'll just say them again. Like Alex was saying, the production had 8.5 more sacks, or I think 7.5 more sacks than he did in 2021. However, the tackles did decrease, but that's not, I mean, he's an edge rusher, right? So the sack totals, or defensive ends, edge rusher, whatever you want to call it, the sack totals is really where you want to look at. Also had 2 fumble recoveries this past season. So 37 total tackles, 22 of them solo, and 9 sacks in the 2 fumble recoveries I mentioned as well. Okay, pick 209. We address the wide receiver position again. A new name here, Jalen Moreno Cropper, I think it would be.
Yeah.
Wide receiver out of Fresno State.
Yeah, so he's 5'11", 172, a smaller guy again, but that's really what this draft class is filled with, is smaller wide receivers. Ran a 4.4 40, great athleticism, obviously coming from that as well. He, was a very productive receiver. I'm sure Josh's going to read in his stats in a minute. He's really shifty. He makes guys miss in the open field. He's got great route running abilities as well. He's a very good route runner, and he makes some very good catches as well. He's got pretty solid hands generally. That does help him out as well. His routes aren't, he runs them well, but I don't think he has the sharpest cuts. I think that was something that you kind of notice as well. And then he does have, he makes these spectacular catches, but he does have some focus drops. So that's a little bit of concern. A guy who's kind of predicted to go in this 5th to 6th round range. And I thought, why not take another shot at a guy with some upside here with Moreno Cropper out of Fresno State in the 6th round.
So, yeah, Alex, you mentioned his catches 2 years in a row with 80-plus catches. You actually have more yards this year, but less touchdowns, which is pretty interesting. In 2021, had 85 catches for 900 yards, basically. It's 899. I'm just going to say 900 yards. And it was over 10 yards per catch. 11 touchdowns that year, right? So keep that in mind with the 11 touchdowns. This year, 1 less catch with 84 receptions, 1,093 yards, so almost 200 yards more than he had the previous year, but only 5 touchdowns. So the touchdowns dropped by 6. However, the yards increased by 200. So it's interesting he was used more in the attacking game, getting down the field. but obviously not in the end zone as much. I don't know how the Fresno State offense worked this year. I don't know if they had a very good running back. I don't know if they had other wide receiver options and who they were, unfortunately. Not that much of a college scouting expert. So I can't tell you that, but it seems like he went from a big red zone threat to not so big of a red zone threat, but just kind of a guy to help to get down the field. But yeah, anyway, we can go to the next guy here. Alex, you have pick 240.
Yeah, pick 240, our first of 2 7th-round picks. We obviously lost that final 7th-round pick in my masterful trade. Here we've got Anthony Orji, linebacker out of Vanderbilt. Kind of a mixed safety, hybrid safety linebacker type player, which we know the Giants are interested in. Had a good 4.5 340. He's got great speed. He can attack the edge with his speed as well. He's a good blitzer, so that's something that's going to be important for Wink Martindale linebacker. And that's kind of where he really shines. He doesn't have much strength, and he doesn't have much strength, despite the fact that he is 230 already. It's kind of he's not going to be in there stopping the run very effectively at that size currently. Could he build some muscle? Possibly, but certainly a guy who's kind of in the 7th round for a reason, but I know a lot of people do like him a lot, kind of like their favorite late round guy. So wanted to include him in there for all the people that are into Orji's game.
He's a tackling machine. That's something that you can see in the stats here. 2020 had 65 tackles, 2021 71, and then racked it up even more in 2022, 106. So over 100 tackles this past season, 52 of them solo tackles. Also had a sack and a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries as well. He's had at least 1 sack and 1 forced fumble. He also had a pick this year. He's had at least 1 sack and 1 forced fumble in the last 3 years of college football. And it seems like he's had 3 years of starting experience at Vanderbilt. So another thing to kind of talk about there. And then finally, our last pick here, 243 for the New York Giants in this final Take It In 2023 New York Giants Center Mock Draft 3.0. Josh Wyle, the tight end out of Cincinnati. Alex, obviously I'll have his stats ready, but you can talk about the player, the last one more time.
Yeah. He's really your do-it-all tight end. He's a solid blocker. He can run some routes. He's a good contested catch guy, good red zone threat. He's not an athletic freak, ran a 4.69 40, but he will be productive. He can do everything for you. And I think that's really what you want here in the 7th round. There's really not much to say about Wiley, to be completely honest. He's just above average at everything he does. And he's got really long arms. So a very good sign for a red zone contested catch threat.
Another guy in Wiley with 3 years of starting experience. 2020 had 28 catches for 353 yards and 6 touchdowns, back-to-back 6 touchdown seasons. However, the touchdowns dropped. They cut it in half in 2022, where he cut it in half. This past season, 32 catches, so more than his past 2 years prior to that in 2021 and 2020. 32 catches for 326 yards, about 10 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. And that's going to do it for our mock draft. Going in order, one more time. I'm going to run through all of them. Kalijah Kancey, pick 25, defensive tackle, Pittsburgh. Pick 57, DJ Turner, cornerback out of Michigan. Giants made a trade with the Chicago Bears. It was pick 89 and 254 they got for pick 103 and pick 133. So at pick 103 was wide receiver out of Michigan State, Jaden Reed. Pick 128, Sean Tucker, running back, Syracuse. Pick 133, Olu Oluwatimi, offensive or a center, right, out of Michigan. Pick 160, Moro Ojomo, defensive tackle, Texas. Pick 172, Yaya Diaby, edge, Louisville. Pick 209, Jalen Moreno-Cropper, wide receiver, Fresno State. Pick 240, Anthony Orji, linebacker, Vanderbilt. And pick 243, Josh Wiley, tight end out of Cincinnati. That last guy, I can definitely pronounce his first name. It's similar to mine, so it works out there. Anyway, that is our bad joke there. That is our final 2023 New York Giants 7-round mock draft 3.0.